are good.
Robin, here you go.
Awesome, thank you.
That's why Truman moved it over there. He knew it was coming.
I know it was coming.
Okay, we'll call the governance committee meeting to order. Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, January 22nd. We're now at 1:19 p.m. Call the meeting to order. Currently we have a staff from the COMIDA, the executive director and a list. Robin, Deputy Director Robin Finnerty, Director Allison Park, our counsel Rachel Veronello, the actual board chair Truman Tolfrey, board member Rat King, and myself, Norman Jones. First order of business, approval of the prior meeting minutes from December 8th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Discussion items. As we are all aware, we've gone through the process of reviewing the actual housing study. It was a study that was a long time coming, and it was a very powerful study that provided us an actual outline and a direction to go into to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community in regards to housing and other things that along the way. With that being said, as we implement the actual recommendations from the study, we know that we have to make changes to our UTEP. And this discussion will start with that. Before we get into the discussion, I just want to hear from staff in regards to the UTEP, the impacts and the changes, and I want to ask the executive director analyst to give us an update.
Thank you, Norman. And I don't pretend to be a subject matter expert on the process of updating the uniform tax exemption policy. Rachel Farinello is our resident expert. We have talked through this a number of times, kind of the UTEP update 101 for COMIDA. Finally, we're at a place now since the adoption of the housing study and now approval of our first housing project under the framework of one of those pilot structures that were delineated in the housing study. We're in a place to kick off conversations about actually updating our UTEP formally in 2026. I believe the last time that we had a wholesale update was 2012. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
What was 2012?
Wow.
It's been several years. Let's just put it that way. It's been a long time. And while the most straightforward action item for COMIDA in light of the housing study having been adopted is to incorporate the housing pilot structures into our UTEP. While we're updating our UTEP, we also wanted to adjust, make a couple of housekeeping adjustments, so to speak, such as our standard pilot framework, while it looks like it's 10 years, it's actually a 9-year pilot, because in year 10, there's 100%, you're paying 100% full value. So we wanted to adjust it so it's truly, really and truly a 10-year pilot. Also too, for new projects, the job requirement is only one job. And you'll recall with larger scale projects like the Amazon project, investments from a handful of years ago, the Fairlife project, we worked with the board to increase the required job figure as a measure of performance in the pilot. And it's worth having a conversation about for projects of a certain size, we might want to increase the expectation from just one job to some larger number. And then furthermore, as we introduce new pilot structures that are in a longer runway, up to 16 years for the Premier Housing Plus pilot, I think it would behoove us to look simultaneously at the existing pilot frameworks for industrial projects and talk about, do we want to extend the runways for industrial and commercial projects commensurate to some of these housing structures, like basically, if we have a 10-year pilot for a manufacturing project and a 16-year pilot for a housing project, do we instead want to introduce longer timeframes to also for manufacturing projects, because that is essentially our, bread and butter. We want to stimulate industrial investment and industrial job creation in Monroe County. So that's my preamble, and I would love to ask Rachel, our subject matter expert, to weigh in with some technical notes and sort of help kick off the conversation.
So in changing our UTEP, the law is silent on the process, so it's up to the committee how you want to publicize the updating your UTEP. Some agencies are just going through the governance committee process and making a recommendation to their full board and updating their UTEP. Some are providing written notice to each taxing jurisdiction, outlining what the changes are and inviting comment. And others are, in addition to that written notice, holding a public hearing as well. So it's at the board's discretion how you want to publicize your changes.
Can you go over those one more time?
So the first would be just governance committee makes a recommendation to the full board, and the full board adopts a resolution adopting the changes to the UTEP. We're done. Option number 2 would be written notice to the taxing jurisdictions outlining the changes that we've made. So to each 19 towns and however many villages within, except for Fairport.
Okay.
Outlining what our changes are, probably in like a bullet point fashion, and inviting comment. The third option.
Inviting
written comment. The third option would be holding a public hearing. It would be here, and you would provide notice to, again, each of the taxing jurisdictions. It would run in the paper, so the public could attend as well, and we would have what could be a pretty involved public hearing.
What are the impacts, or what would be the requirements of COMIDA to deal with any of the recommendations that comes out of the public hearing?
That's at the discretion of the committee.
Okay.
So whether you get written comments or verbal comments at a public hearing, you take them as part of your consideration, and your overall, it's one data point or multiple data points in your overall analysis of your UTEP changes. Just like in a project, when you get public comments on a project, they're data points in your overall analysis.
So it doesn't dictate that they become actionable by COMIDA?
Correct.
Okay.
It's just for your consideration.
Okay.
What happens in the public hearing?
What happens at the public hearing?
Mm-hmm.
I think that staff would probably want to have some sort of presentation of the UTEP changes, rationale as to why. Right now at a public hearing, you've seen them, Robin reads a project description. I think it would probably be all of staff, myself there, and we'd present those changes. At a public hearing, it could become a back and forth discourse, and which is fine, but we try it for the projects anyway. We avoid that. Right. We avoid a back and forth discourse at public hearings.
In this case, would it be in our best interest to have board members or the governance committee show up for the public hearing?
Yeah, that would be perfectly reasonable.
Okay.
If we went to public hearing.
We do live stream them, so you could.
Okay.
Yeah, you could also watch it live.
All right.
And we would share the link, obviously.
And isn't it smart to have that public hearing?
It's up to, you can solicit feedback in any way that you want. I mean, is it smart to solicit feedback? Probably. The manner in which you choose to do so, I don't think it matters.
As long as it gets.
If you think asking for written commentary is more orderly than a public hearing, then we can do it that way. Some are doing, and if we have a public hearing, we're going to invite written comment too. So you get both. Like the public hearing route encompasses getting written comments too.
Mm-hmm.
What will be the cadence? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
What will be the cadence if we did all three? Right? Let's say that, going back to Norm's, one of Norm's earlier comments, we need to have a conversation with the taxing jurisdictions. These guys are implicitly our partners and, you know, it's probably, you know, just being a good partner to reach out and say, hey, listen, this is gonna happen, provide some comment, but obviously, you know, saying we want this to happen and this is why we believe it needs to happen, but telegraphing it to them first, to the extent that we get some written comments back from them. If we wanna make some revisions, we make revisions. If we don't need to, we don't need to. But once we have them on board, then say we want to also have the public hearing, just as a, again, kind of sort of neighborly, good public agency, kind of showing. And within that public hearing, if we have solidified support from a coalition of the willing, so to speak, all the taxing jurisdictions, the county is on board, the city is on board, but we also want to have a public hearing to say that the public is on board as well. And so from that standpoint, you know, out of those 3 meetings, you know, we have a real mandate. You know, then I think that puts us in a fairly strong position.
Can they all happen at once?
No.
They could, but that's not a bad idea to kind of start with written comments, see what we get back, use, you know, right now, today, and however many meetings it takes to move the UTEP in the direction the committee wants to see it. Once you think you're in a draft form, you can share that with the taxing jurisdictions and invite written comment. Then you can take those into consideration into your next draft, and then that could be the basis for a public hearing once you think that you're pretty much there. It's probably a good way to do it, so that you're not coming out with a very preliminary draft at a public hearing.
Oh, absolutely.
No surprises.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's best to get the lay of the land and find out, you know, what's out there.
Sorry.
And what's
I'm sorry.
And I'm glad you got him out of my arm.
Bad,
But it's important for us to be open and have the dialogue and get a good understanding, because what we're doing is for the benefit of the community. We're not doing it just to say, this is what we say and that's it, and you have no say in it. So we are giving folks an opportunity to opine or to give them, give some type of input on what the process is. I think, you know, the sequence is important. If we, you know, we put together, you know, this draft UTEP, and we send it out to, I think, the majors first, you know, the major ones that are impacted the most. Who are the 2 major key points of impact?
City and Henrietta.
City and Henrietta.
It could make it easier
Wouldn't
once
you
there's
say?
public comment, because you've already heard.
Is that what you mean,
Right.
like the
Where we have the most
municipalities with the
projects?
largest volume?
Great.
Yeah, so Greece.
Greece?
Not Greece.
Greece.
Yeah.
Greece,
Probably in
The
third behind
the Greece, City, Henrietta, Monroe County.
The county.
Well, they're
are
implicated in
already-
every
yeah,
single one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, those are the one, I think as we sequence it, I think we have direct conversations with those folks, or ask, or not conversations, but direct, written responses from them on what they see.
Did we mention Gates?
Yeah,
Oh, Gates
Okay,
is a
yeah,
big one
Gates
too.
is a big
Yeah.
one, yeah.
So,
cause there are some towns that we do very little in.
right.
Brighton, Pittsburgh,
Right,
little.
right, yeah, Brighton is big.
Harrington, not that much either.
No.
What's the, like, tenor of or the tone of the relationship with those large jurisdictions at this point? Is it collaborative? And if we go and have a conversation with them, would you anticipate any pushback? I mean, because when you really think about what we're talking about here, just going over, just to summarize the 3 points that Anna laid out. You know, the first one is increasing more jobs requirements. No one's gonna push back on that, right? I mean, that just makes sense. They do push back on that. They're crazy. Probably shouldn't have talked to them in the first place.
I want less jobs.
Right, I want
Right,
less
right,
jobs.
right,
It doesn't make any sense, right? And so, and then, revised duration from, you know, 10 to 9, you know, again, that may create some impact, but, honestly, it's probably negligible, from a net present value standpoint, it's all the way at the end, and we're just really making it 10 years, which is what it should be,
Right.
right? Just a 10-year pilot.
Right.
So really, part of this is looking back and revising the current UTEP to really be in conformance with, what we think the pilot should be today, and making the requirements of those seeking pilot agreements or sales and mortgage tax exemptions higher, right? So that we increase the public benefit. And the last one is something that we've already done, right? Again, it's just more of a look back saying, we have this pilot agreement for housing projects, right? We need to, well, no, I'm sorry, you said you want to extend the pathways for industrial to housing. That may be the only one that we receive a little bit of pushback on. But,
Yeah.
But the other two are pretty benign.
So, when you talk about, well, that's a good segue, when you talk about the adjustment for industrial, what's that gonna look like?
So I think what the board should do is just take a look, so if you turn to Appendix A of the UTEP, and that's our standard jobs plus pilot, this is the easy one to start with. As you can see, it's a 9-year pilot. I think the proposal is to take it for the first 2 years at 90% abated, and then down to 10% in the last year to be consistent with the Housing Plus pilot, if you take your housing schedules and put it right next to it.
Would there be an issue with 100% in year one?
We can find out, I mean, that's why we're gonna solicit written comment. Of clients who have a 10-year pilot where it's based on an abatement, they all start at 100 in year one.
Yeah, okay.
So it is very common, again, but these are smaller, rural counties with fewer projects, fewer industrial projects, so they are more aggressive with their pilot structures than we are. But that's, why we're soliciting feedback.
Okay. I would be amenable to 100 in year one, a 90, just to be more aggressive and to I mean, this isn't a high cost environment, and I'm sure that would be appreciated, but I don't want to, obviously, we have to have important conversations with taxing jurisdictions about that first and foremost, but if our peer IDAs have a framework like that in place, I don't see a problem with us emulating them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, if they go through and do the math, though, that's obviously, if I were inclined to not vote for it, if I were in a taxing jurisdiction, it would be like the last year with an additional 10%. Again, from a economic standpoint, mathematically, is obviously much less impactful than an additional 10% in the first year, plus an additional 10% in the last year. Things up front have a greater impact on, in terms of like IR, but I mean, I think it makes sense. The only thing that I would say is, and I thought we should have done this for the Housing Plus. It's probably too late now, but I would.
No, not too late.
Well, I think it makes sense for the Housing Plus to match this pilot agreement, and I would just leave it alone after that, right? I don't know if going back and saying we need a more aggressive pilot agreement for industrial projects right now.
Sure. I understand.
Would you leave it, so Housing Plus,
So the
if you started that one at 100% abated, if you look up to enhanced, would you keep the first 5 years at 90? So
Yeah, so.
they don't have to, right now they stack on top of
Right.
each other.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that.
Right.
So your Housing Plus pilot would start at 100 and go down to 10. Your Enhanced Housing Plus would be start at 90 and the first 5 years are at 90. And then your Premier Housing Plus, you start at 95%, first 3 years, then it's 5 years. There's still very good abatements. I mean, you've got a shorter abatement on Housing Plus, maybe it does make sense to start it. That's really at the committee's thought process there.
So you would just mirror the Jobs Plus?
I'm just thinking out loud right now. Honestly, there's no rhyme or reason for me saying that. It's not based on any logic other than saying, I like the way it looks that they're equal.
I
And
hear you
so-
on that.
So, you know, that.
Where our
but-
OCD comes in.
So,
It has to match.
yeah, but again, like, they don't have to, but, you know, if I'm taking a look at this and just, you know, I mean, that's just something that feels logical. Like, you know, if we have the Housing Plus, that just feels like that's the least onerous, pilot agreement that we have for housing. Kind of makes sense that would equal, like, the pilot agreement that we have for everything else.
Right, and more often than not, when we have a really significant project, like, of course, a Fairlife and an Amazon, or, the Life Cycle project from a handful of years ago, those project owners will come to us and try to, negotiate
something
a
more
special
aggressive, right.
deviation from the UTEP and
Right.
that, and go in front of the taxing jurisdiction. That really always happens when they're spending
Yeah.
major dollars
And
and
they should.
creating hundreds and hundreds of jobs. And they should, exactly, so there already is
Gives us
that,
more leverage
yeah,
too, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Along with this recommendation.
It's, it's not ridiculous to,
We're too close.
we could,
Does anybody want,
we could consider, and Rachel could speak to this, but I think other IDAs, like I'm thinking about Sioux Bend County, there's language in the UTEP that grants the executive director some latitude to negotiate terms up to a certain number of years, for certain kinds of projects. So like, it's possible for us to bake in some verbiage around, like, even though it doesn't look like, a bread and butter a cookie cutter manufacturing project will get, incentives more generous than an affordable housing project, there is that avenue for certain types of economic development,
yeah, like we
industrial
still
projects.
have the ability to deviate, and we can still go through that process. These are our standard, this is our starting point, without negotiation, this is what people can qualify for. But when you have unique circumstances, you always have the ability to deviate, and the reasons you deviate, you'll see, and they're
Can we say-
already in there.
Can we say we have latitude to make adjustments as necessary to meet the needs instead of deviate?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Really,
To meet the needs of projects, and that's the point.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think having the latitude and the flexibility
yeah,
to make these changes to meet the needs of the project, because it's not all cookie cutter.
right.
We
No,
have to
right.
make decisions that's gonna meet the needs of the community,
Yeah,
and that's what we're doing, right?
right.
Mhm.
Every project has special circumstances,
Oh,
special,
no one's
everything's different.
no one's the same. No
Rather like
project's the same.
simplicity,
Yeah.
Do,
Yeah.
I like simplicity, but.
Well,
like
So I
simplicity.
think on this page,
Yeah.
your only other questions
the
are on
pilots.
jobs.
yeah.
Just wanna make sure like we hit all of our issues on this
So-
page.
So, I know that having simplicity is great, but also we have to make sure that we have a certain amount of rigidity in there, where they're not gonna come there and question our decisions because we
Yeah,
kind of
Yeah.
moved.
Yeah, we want standardization. I
Right.
think in the past, and again, Rachel, you could probably speak to this, prior to 2020, there was a little bit more, well, prior to 2018 maybe, there
Yeah.
was like a lot more when
I would say
your
there were a lot
predecessor-
more custom pilots.
Right.
Like leading up to 2018.
But they were like Sibley, that,
Yeah, so like
they were like, they warranted.
there were so many projects at that time, difficult projects in the city that needed addressing, and Norm, you can speak to this. Like all of what is it, Parcel 5, whatever, where Midtown is, and all of those buildings didn't exist.
Right.
And
They
so a
needed a
lot of
leg up.
it was just at the time what was needed,
Mhm.
and there were a number of custom pilots, but it worked, right?
Right.
The Center City is what
Yeah.
it is.
Of course, because of
Yeah.
COMIDA, right?
Yeah.
Right,
No, I lived it,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
no, I see that, and having the study as an outline, and using that as baseline of how we make our decisions. And we can always go back to the study recommends that we do this, the study recommends we do that, but it's not all etched in stone on a tablet that's been hammered and chiseled, by Aesop.
We could do that.
No, we're not gonna do that. Well, but I'm just saying that we just wanna make sure that we have something that we could, just, refer to
Yeah,
in the event
a
of.
living and breathing,
Document.
right.
And you look at
policy.
these policies every year.
Right.
So every March, you look at all policies, including this one. I mean, we waited on this one because we have substantial changes, but it's a document that board will review annually and change as needed. You know, the idea is to encompass changes as best you can so that you're not amending your UTEP constantly, but. And then I think there were a couple.
So I'm sorry, so we're leaning towards 100, 90, 80, 70,
Yes.
60. And then the job creation requirement is 10% over existing. But then when you have a company that's brand new to the area and they come in,
Or even just new construction, like the Del Monte Hotel.
right,
Then
Right.
it's
Where
just like,
there's
oh, you're
no
only
jobs
required to make one,
existing.
to
you're only
create one
required
job.
one job.
Right, exactly.
So we could keep that, or we could do some sort of percentage of their projected.
Right.
So on their application, they project employment. We've talked in the past about, should we hold companies to a certain percentage of their projected jobs when there's zero existing employment at the location?
For Amazon, I think it was 2021 that COMIDA approved Rock One, right? Was it 100 that we put on there, or it was bigger than that?
I can't remember, I'd have to look back. We ended up looking.
Rock One we didn't do anything, it was,
Shepherd Road?
no, the one in Greece
Oh,
was
okay.
one.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we did, I don't remember what the rocks are, the big one in Gates, I
Rock
think
one.
they said 1,000 and we called them to
And we went to
500.
500.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was effectively 50% of their project, and they well overshot even the projected
Yeah.
employment, so that was an easy, like,
We don't have to
metric for them
call
to
out a
achieve.
percentage
No.
in our UTEP. We can say that the job creation requirement will be a percentage of the projected jobs, and then staff can talk to applicants.
I like that.
We don't, before there were job creation requirements, like this agency's always had job creation requirements. Not every agency has and has put them into their pilots and measured them in the same way. The state now expects us to do so. And so the conversation, we're here to set people up for success. So the conversation should be, you projected 20 jobs. Are you sure you can create them? And if we hold you to 10, are you sure that that's something that's attainable? We do not want to set people up for failure, of course. So I think if we just
I like
say,
that.
if it's zero existing, and we can get the verbiage, the requirement will be a percentage of the projected jobs to be determined at the agency's discretion.
Sounds good.
All right.
everyone's amenable to that. It's a good idea.
What does enforcement look like if they don't actually produce the jobs?
That's
do that.
on the COMIDA, every year when we evaluate job creation, and it's our compliance committee kind of process, which we can talk about. Typically, when in instances where companies aren't fulfilling the obligations, you know, we need to get information from them about why that is. And it could be that there are extenuating circumstances, they're struggling for whatever reason. And so we bring, through our compliance process, we bring those back to the board for discussion, and then talk about granting, you know, some clemency or a waiver, yes, a waiver, and then we continue monitoring from there. It's not commonplace for us to terminate based on not meeting job goals, because we try to trust that all of our projects are acting in good faith. But again, it falls back on staff to monitor through the surveying, and, you know, Robin's in constant communication with the project owners. Did I hit that correctly? Okay.
Yep, you got it.
Well, we have terminated, there's that one company out of New York City.
Yeah, there was a housing
That was for
project
local
for our
labor
local labor.
violations.
Right.
For job, so in the event the board doesn't grant a job waiver, the current penalty is the company pays the difference between, bear with me, the difference between what they would have paid if they were receiving a 485B abatement, which is of as of right abatement under the law that starts at 50%, and what they would have paid under the pilot, the difference in the abatement in the disqualifying year. So it amounts to like a couple $1,000s sometimes, if that,
No, so
$1,000,
that's a formula.
if they don't create the
Okay.
jobs.
But
But what?
the but is like, how do we collect that? Where does it go?
Yeah, where does it go? Like just into the IDA coffers? I don't think we've ever assessed the penalty.
Sure. What, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Well, this is slightly off topic, but it will help me in a lot of our conversations. And you may not have the answer for this right now, which is fine. So all of the taxing jurisdictions, Monroe County, the taxes that we levy, do we have a sense as to whether or not all of those taxing jurisdictions, number one, have a balanced budget to the extent that they are in like a budget deficit, they're not generating enough tax revenue to cover their budgets, number one. Number two, same question for the county. And number three, like, do we have a sense as to whether or not, like when these businesses expand, like, is there a way to actually quantify what that means in terms of additional tax revenue? I guess the reason why I'm asking the question is how important is it that they actually produce a job to the extent that over time it's accretive to the tax revenue that's being brought in? Like, so it will be one thing if we gave them a sales and mortgage tax abatement and it were dilutive to revenue, right? And they weren't creating any jobs. But if it's worst case neutral to revenue, best case accretive to revenue, then we're better off for giving them the pilot agreement. And the job is honestly just cherry on top.
So our
that make
pilots
sense?
are accretive to revenue because we never abate existing value. So if there's land in an existing improvement, we never abate that. They continue to pay 100% on that. So any payment they receive, the taxing jurisdictions receive under a pilot agreement is new revenue that would not otherwise exist but for the agency's involvement in the project. That's why we get involved. I don't know about where towns are.
So if there's a tax bill of $100,000 on this project,
Correct,
that $100,000 is always going to get paid.
always gets paid.
What's only getting abated is the
New
increment, the new value on top of it, and that's at 100%, and then that steps down for the new value.
Right.
And that's the way it works also for commercial projects.
Correct.
Right. So from that standpoint, honestly, are this being recorded?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I care about the jobs, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I care that it's more than one. It's always, if it's always accretive, worst case neutral, then really what we want to do again is, like, the purpose of this, again, in my mind, is really just to incentivize additional investment, business retention, jobs retention. Then let's do that,
It's gonna bring the people,
right?
even without,
And again, if it truly is, if it's not dilutive to revenue, and we're not worse off by granting the incentive, and if our purpose is to incentivize additional investment in businesses, jobs and business retention, then why make it more onerous than it needs to be?
See,
And this is just me playing devil's advocate.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you a response or a retort. There's arrows, they have to be in balance. So you look at commercial development, industrial development, that's one arrow. Housing, that's the other arrow. And the third arrow is jobs. And there's gonna be components or people within our community that's gonna say, it's important for us to have industrial development and we don't care. We want these folks here, we wanna sell more electricity, we want them to utilize the land, we want them to build things. Then there's gonna be an element, the community is gonna say, we need more housing. We have to have housing, affordable housing units for the people that are going to work here. Then there's gonna be people here that say, we need to have jobs. So what we have to do is have a balanced approach. If we balance out this approach, that means we have a little bit of something for everybody. And I think that's the tricky part, is trying to, keep it balanced and keeping those scales balanced. Because, you're right, Truman, we want people to invest here. But how do you get them to invest here? How do you get people to come here? People came here to Rochester because, one, there were jobs. And they came to Rochester from all parts of not only the country, but all around the world, because there was a big company that started with a K that bought everybody here. And it was because of jobs. So when you have all these things in balance, we're gonna have the best recipe out there.
I see it both ways, and I think Rachel's suggested approach captures our ability to, captures the nuance, right? So on a case-by-case basis, we can.
It may be one.
Yeah.
It may remain at one, depending on the project.
Yeah.
But this way, there's some latitude to the staff to decide, because sometimes optically, you have this mega project and the job creation requirement's one.
Like Amazon, right?
Yeah, and what was the job creation for Fairline?
250?
250. And how many jobs?
We didn't hold them in 250 though.
I think
We didn't hold them to one.
100 or something.
100, I think it was, yeah.
And how many are you gonna hire?
Oh, probably more than 300.
They told
I would
me last
imagine,
time I
yeah.
spoke to somebody.
So I guess that's part of it too. And listen, I'm really just trying to do this so we have critical discourse and make sure we're not just doing something
Rubber stamp.
arbitrarily just
Right.
for the sake of doing it.
330.
The probability of a large project coming to town and them only hiring one person is,
Very low, yeah.
It's-
I mean, it's zero, right?
Right.
It's zero. And the likelihood of them also coming and wanting to have a seat at the table and negotiate something a little bit more aggressive than what we currently have, it's probably high. And so in that standpoint, if we are deviating from what the current policy is, then again, that gives us the latitude to ask for more jobs creation. That's what you all do with Fairlife, right? Et cetera. And so from that standpoint, again, I don't know, it just feels like we are potentially setting the stage for some technical foot faults down the road that is just going to honestly cause more administrative hassle for you. And it's needless, because again, if the enforcement is really a false threat, then what's the point of doing it in the first place?
It was a point that the agency would get criticized about. You're only requiring one job. It was optics.
Right, but so just because we thought that made sense, does it make sense to change it? Again, if, some of this stuff is, we just have to educate folks, right? What we do is not dilutive. We're not taking revenue from taxing jurisdictions, we're not taking revenue from the county. Actually, what we're doing is incentivizing investment, which over time is accretive to revenue. It helps us balance our budgets. It helps us take revenue and invest in infrastructure projects, right? It helps incentivize new businesses coming to Rochester and to the region, right? Because we're making it more economically viable and sustainable for them to do, at least early on. And we all know that, those first 10 years that someone's starting a business are, critical, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if that is, or should be, a point of criticism for saying, well, you're only providing one job, because again, if it's a new business coming to town, they're going to have more than one job.
And
If it's someone like the, trash collection company that we
Yeah.
just approved.
JP White Trash.
JP White Trash. You know, again, it's not dilutive. They need a new truck, right? And we're helping them go out and buy a new truck so their business is sustainable, so that they can grow revenue, provide additional services to the community, right? Like, I don't know that.
When the criticism comes, that it's one.
We could leave
The
it
answer is.
status quo, because it hasn't been, it was really the Amazon project in 2021 that sparked a conversation around, because I think, was that an 18-year pilot that was negotiated? 15-year, thank you. You know, for the value of the benefit, the fact that we were only holding them to one job, the optics of that particular project were stark, and that contrast was stark and sparked dialogue at the board level, which caused us to make an adjustment in that instance. And then later on down the road, when we approved other larger scale projects, including, I think, the Life Cycle project was after Amazon, and Fairlife, we had those conversations related to those specific projects and had the approvals be contingent on job creation above what would otherwise have been required.
Sure.
So, and then, can I give an example?
Mm-hmm.
So, XYZ Manufacturing Company is already here, they have
Right.
100 employees. They're putting a huge addition on their building. They will be held to 10 employees. It'll be written in their pilot agreement. 10% over existing. So it will be written in their pilot agreement. They have to have 10 new employees, and we are gonna monitor that for 10 years, and you have to show more than 110 employees every year. But XYZ company comes into town, and their pilot agreement will say one. So I hear what you're saying, it's optics, so it doesn't look good to the company that's already here, that.
Yeah.
Right, and maybe the company that's already here, like, part of from a basic business theory standpoint, like a business is scalable,
Yeah.
right? Because you are able to scale without increasing your variable cost. And so if we're telling someone, you want to invest in your business, you want to scale, maybe you have manufacturing capacity issues, right? And you want to scale, and you have existing capacity with your current employee base. So you're investing and you're building out new capital. But we're saying, in addition to that though, you also have to increase your variable costs, your labor costs. Like, that goes against, like, some of the tenets of what a scalable business actually is. And,
Yeah.
and really
Yeah.
what we're telling them is, we want you to be less profitable.
Are there any other IDAs that do not have or enforce a job creation requirement, or?
They enforce them, they're just not as, ours are very black and white. Like, it's 10% over existing. That's it.
And everyone has 10% over existing?
Everybody has 10%.
Except for the ones that we bring to you every year
Yeah.
that have
But
not
why?
done it.
So what are they, I'm sorry, what are they, why? Like, what's the why behind the 10% over existing?
That's how they've always done it.
Well, what was the, what, do
I
we
don't-
know
I don't
who
know.
was at the table when that was made? Because that was baked into our UTEP, right? At whichever point in time the UTEP was first conceptualized.
It was probably
So,
from 2009, or it could have been from 1999.
Sure.
I don't know.
so I guess.
Different economic times also.
I guess, here's the big question. Has there been any entity, company that's been penalized or damaged by meeting this job requirement? Have they come to you and said, because of this job requirement that's in place, that you have here, we're not profitable, and it's hurting our business?
I have not.
Generally,
It's
the
not profitable,
applications-
it's less profitable.
I mean, that's, I'm saying the impact. I mean, I think we have to show, if it's that big of a concern, we should be able to articulate and show that this has been a detriment to companies staying here. We got, what's the name of the waffle company that's coming?
Waffle Later.
Waffle Later.
No.
They're coming to Rochester, and they're gonna be hiring people, because it's more profitable for them to make waffles here in Rochester than it is to make waffles in Atlanta, Georgia.
Sure.
So, I mean, you know, there's something about being here and them committing to our community. And what we're getting is, we're gonna come here, we're gonna hire your people here. We're making a commitment to you. No, we're making a commitment to you to give you these incentives. And they're making a commitment to us by hiring our people. So I think it's a two-way street. And if there's a situation where we have to make adjustments, I think we have to provide staff and the latitude to make those types of adjustments. So I think, you know, it's a good point from you. But I really think we should be able to be flexible enough and nimble enough to make adjustments if the case exists where it has this detrimental impact on a business. So,
what I was just saying to Robin is that sometimes companies will expand like a new line. If they're a manufacturing company, they'll add a new line, they add an addition that's a new line. If they're expected to create 10% over existing and they're a big company, that job creation requirement could be 20, 30, 50 jobs. It's a lot. That's an onerous requirement.
Good point.
So we've worked with them to say, your addition is a new line to your business. We're saying there are 0 employees within that scope of your business, so we're going to work with you and your job creation requirement will be 1. We're not gonna base it off your existing lines of business. So we found ways to be flexible with the 10%, but maybe, and you know, staff has been used to a very black and white UTEP for years of, this is what you get, this is the requirements, this is it. But you don't have to have a percentage in at all. You could just say that the job creation requirement will be determined at the discretion of the agency. That leaves a lot of open, because you've got staff maybe making a decision, coming to the board, maybe the board is like, wait a minute, I don't agree with this, how did you guys get to this? So, is it up to 10% at the agency's discretion? Is it at least 10% at the agency's discretion? I think probably, based on this conversation, up to 10% at the discretion of the agency.
I think we have to leave that job creation, some number in there.
Yeah, it justifies the benefit.
Yeah, so, in that way, you're gonna really stop the naysayers from attacking us.
Robin, in the application process, is there a question for how many jobs that they're gonna expect?
Yes. Yeah. So like right on that page where you see like the pilot program checked, that there's a blank as to how many jobs they have to create. So they know going into the application process.
So Truman, would it make sense, knowing that instead of it being a set amount, that there's a variance between 10 jobs and 30 jobs?
If you just simply put the words at the agency's discretion, if when staff is working with a business, they determine that 10% is onerous, it's not reasonable, then we can make that case to the board. And that way, and then we're not deviating either, right?
I don't know if I like that for you all, and so let me tell you why. Like, you have to be very consistent, I think, with the way you.
Like, what criteria did they meet for us?
Right. I mean, you can have one business that has the same amount of revenue, the same amount of employees, and say you only need 1 job, and then someone else comes in 2 years from now, right? And we forgot about their project, and we tell them they need 5.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's just the opportunity for like too much variance, and which will open up the door for criticism. Like what if the approach isn't as black and white as 10%? What if it's something that's more scaled, right? So, I mean, if you have a business that's between 0 and $20 million in revenue, it's 1 employee, right? Like, what if we think about it that way and get a little bit more granular and have it be a minimum requirement?
Would you do revenue or total project cost?
I mean,
We don't
but these are what I'm saying,
we don't
like, it's,
typically know what their annual revenues are.
I would say project costs,
or project costs.
Okay.
project costs. And, like the company, the Windstream Paytech folks, they're talking about bringing in a ton of people. That's way more than 10%. Do they get more credit?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about the project Megazone that
Megazone.
stemmed from the
Yeah.
Windstream, yeah.
Their benefit to incentive ratio is 7,000 to 1.
Right.
Yeah.
So we, no, and they're bringing in how many new employees?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're making a commitment to, RIT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just,
So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a tiered approach.
right,
0 to 10 million, and I'm just, again,
Yeah.
spitballing, 0 to 10 million, minimum 1 employee, right? 10.1 million to 20 million, 2 employees. Like, do you see where I'm going?
Yeah.
And then, above 50 million, minimum of 10, right? However, all of these tiers are at the discretion of the executive director and staff.
right.
But,
Based on their
that way, we're not really penalizing a small and middle-sized business for making significant investment, right, in their business by saying that you also have to, like, arbitrarily increase.
But,
Yeah,
but,
you're
but,
right.
but I don't know if anyone's been penalized yet. I mean, they theoretically, possibly, but I don't think that's the case right now.
We haven't had.
No, we haven't. That's because of our functioning compliance
Right,
and review
compliance.
process, where we take these instances of where they didn't meet the job requirement, we take them on a case-by-case basis and review them with the board, and we contend with,
And that's what you guys are
we
talking about.
approve waivers.
So then New York State wants us to have a job
Yeah.
requirement within that,
Yeah.
as part of the IDA.
It's part of their story.
So, it's,
Good to keep it, but also
how do we?
look at other, like 10% is an arbitrary number, and it should probably be based on the company's investment and
Right.
benefit that they're getting. Because remember, we had a lot of data. That cost benefit ratio tells us a huge story about what the benefit to the
So
public is.
then, I'm gonna flip it. What if they're not gonna create, they're asking for $10 million, they're not gonna create any new jobs.
So
But they're gonna retain the
Right.
jobs that are here.
Like,
So
what about a solar project?
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's a lot of automated technology
Yeah.
nowadays in manufacturing.
We were
that
just
exists.
talking about a project that we have a draft application for where it's a retention project. It is keeping this building viable within its host municipality, and it needs to be a retention project and not a creation project.
Mm-hmm.
And those are
Really?
just as important as stabilization.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Equally so, I think.
Well, that's my opinion, I guess.
Well, we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah.
But so, you will on occasion see
Right,
an effort to keep a business, let's call it in the city and not moving out to the suburbs.
right.
And what can we do to keep that business? And it's retaining those jobs, not putting an additional requirement.
I did ask that.
And that's
I did
important.
ask that
You
company,
did.
actually.
You have to ask the question.
I had to.
She had a good
Valid,
answer.
right.
Parking, which we know
Yeah,
is an
yeah.
issue.
Hey,
So I think that's this is just our jumping off point of
Yeah.
these conversations.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
This is just the idea
Oh,
of
This is
thinking.
very helpful.
Very helpful.
this is, I mean, these conversations are so important to address something that hasn't been addressed in 14 years.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And think of how technology has changed and the economic climate has changed in that time frame. Whatever the logic was to institute a 10% requirement in whatever year, whether it was 99 or 2009, 2009 Great Recession, 99, was that tech bubble or dot-com bubble? Sorry. Jobs were the name of the
Technology
game.
2000.
Yeah, and today it's a little bit different. I think, we want to stimulate investment. We want to retain good paying jobs that we have here in our community. We do want to attract more good paying jobs, but we don't want to reduce our competitiveness vis-a-vis other communities,
we wanna keep, we wanna keep those U of R, those RIT grads, and all those
Yeah.
big giant brains here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't want them leaving, and we did that by supporting, Bob Duffy's group.
Yep.
With that program.
Oh, yeah.
So, this is a good, great discussion, thank you. Do you have enough to put something together for us, some changes?
I think we need you to look at Enhanced Jobs Plus next. It's on the next page. And I don't think that's gonna be any easier, maybe now that we've gotten a lot of the job discussion out of the way. But
This is very black and white. The company has to have a capital investment of more than 15 million, and they have to say they're going to create 100 jobs.
we use this pilot very infrequently. And at least one of the ideas that we talked about, Anna, Robin, Allison, and I, was that perhaps there would be fewer need for deviation if this was a more accessible pilot to more businesses. We don't know where 15 million came from. We don't know where 100 jobs. 100 jobs is a tremendous
Yeah, I mean,
amount
this,
of
honestly,
jobs.
this, like, today, this makes no sense.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Like, who's
And nobody
investing
uses it,
$15 million and also creating 100 jobs?
No
Like,
one.
Nobody.
This literally, honestly, makes
Zero cents.
Right.
zero sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, we should just scratch this all together and just start over.
I agree. So, a minimum of, what should,
But this, so,
what should the minimum be?
so in my mind, so again, like this,
And you
I
can
don't
again
know
look at
what
your
the purpose
housing.
of this is. Like, if we get the jobs plus right, and if we say that anything beyond that, really what we're saying is, if you're coming to town and you're building a new factory, right?
Yeah.
Come talk to us.
Yeah. Right.
That's the Stu Ben model. It's,
Right.
Yeah.
it's the executive director has the latitude
Right.
to negotiate, yeah.
I mean, that's what we want. Listen,
Well-
come, if you are thinking about coming to Rochester, right, come talk to us. And, you know,
We're open for business.
we're open for business. And let's get the jobs plus right.
We wanna meet your needs.
Right.
Where you are, yeah.
So, I think you have to have a dollar amount associated with that, because I can come to Rochester, and I'm gonna open up a card shop with only $50,000. I'm gonna come, I'm gonna ask you for something.
And I'm gonna say,
You're a retail
it's
project.
not worth your money, because you have
Yeah.
to pay for it, and you don't qualify, because you're retail, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying,
Understood.
Devil's advocate, yeah.
We do have conversations with people, like,
Right,
let's make sure it's worth it
So,
for you.
so, for us to be able to be flexible, it should be hitting some type of a dollar amount milestone. If you've got a project, you're gonna come in, you're gonna invest $15, $20 million, $10 million in Rochester.
But like, look at Divinity School.
Yeah.
That's a $45 million
yeah.
project.
I was just about to say, that's not a lot of, I mean, listen, I don't,
Oh, it's good.
Not minimizing $15
I'm not
million,
minimizing
but
15.
We
it's
don't
like,
have the pockets you got, bro.
no, I'm not, listen,
but
stop.
we,
Listen, I'm just saying,
15 million is
people are, you, spending $15 million today
Yeah.
that's easy.
yeah.
$15 million meant a lot, something different in '99 too, like,
Right.
these are all,
So,
Like, you got businesses who probably, like, you can do an expansion and be $30 million, right? But you're not building a new plant today
you're not building anything.
With 100 jobs.
with 100 jobs, right? And so I guess really what I'm saying is, if we're going to, I'm sorry, I'm just getting passionate about this. And I'm not.
and this is
No,
modernization.
appreciate it, cause it's
COMIDA modernization.
We can make this make sense by going back to the jobs plus, and if it's tiered, right, then effectively what we're saying is, if the top tier, if the highest tier is, let's just say, $50 million, right, and we have 10 jobs associated with $50 million, then anything above and beyond $50 million, getting back to your point, we have to have a number associated for when we want to have folks come and talk to us. It's come and have a conversation with us.
That, I like it.
Okay.
What do you say, Rachel?
So you're saying eliminate enhanced altogether?
Yeah, because I mean, it just doesn't make any,
built into the current one.
it just doesn't make any sense.
No,
And so
agreed.
if you have
So if you have investment above X,
But say, I like the $50 million.
and then do we have, is the language in here so that giving the executive director
Yes.
the authority to negotiate that pilot agreement up to a certain year? We have to put some parameters
Right.
in.
And it's gonna be subject to board approval, like anything else.
You know, the one thing that I will say, you know, for the time that I've been on this board, staff is amazing. The jobs that have come here that could have gone anywhere else. So I don't think we need to make any kind of major changes, but we could simplify things.
Yes. And staff has been, they've been great.
We are great. Thanks for
Oh,
saying
and
that.
you're humble.
We appreciate it.
So, yes, Grace. This guy, he's.
Right, you always say flattery doesn't get you anywhere, right?
Yeah. But no, really, and if you, since I've been on the board, if you just look at the list of things that's been going.
Oh, yeah, we are
I mean,
killing it.
You've gotta really, and it's.
COMIDA, we don't get the credit we deserve statewide for being the powerhouse that we are, thanks to this,
But it's-
Cracker
there's a
Jack
reason
team.
for it.
Yeah.
But it's not
The
just
whispering.
projects, housing projects, it's being a facilitator and a catalyst for other things. You guys have done pass-throughs for RG&E.
Right,
Yeah.
You've done pass-throughs for RED,
Yeah.
looking at.
and the rail project.
Doing
we
things like the
used as part-
railroad projects
Yeah.
for.
The LISA, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys are, really, touching all the bases here. And it's important that whatever we do here, we still have the flexibility to make sure that we're getting all this stuff done. And we'll be able to withstand the scrutiny. And that's my thing, Trudy, is that, we're always gonna have people who are gonna come and question the process. They're gonna question, why did you make that decision? So as we go through changing this UTEP and making adjustments to the UTEP that hasn't been done in 14 years, we wanna make sure that we have that flexibility and the latitude, make sure staff has the ability to get the jobs done.
Yeah.
Does it
you're here.
affect anything to get rid of the enhanced jobs
It
plus?
gets used so infrequently.
So infrequently.
Because
I can think
that
of one in the last
requirements.
SPS medical. I can think of one in the
American
last.
Packaging, did they start with it?
Okay, there were two.
Okay.
In theory,
Who's
yes.
on Jefferson?
Unifer
Unither,
and SPS medical.
SPS Medical.
And again, it was a different,
Yeah.
the requirement was introduced at a time when jobs
Oh,
were the benchmark, that was the
And the
need.
housing, I think the housing schedules can serve multiple purposes. We can use them for housing, but we can also use them as a starting point on commercial projects too, when we see large commercial, and we'll need to talk in future meetings. Like this again is just a starting point of what are the investments that we're looking for that would say, okay, you're out of the jobs plus category. We need to push you into a more lucrative category in your abatement.
To Norman's point, I think, having, and this will happen because we are a Cracker Jack team, we will be prepared with, it'll be a defensible change, right? We will have some annotated version, or we'll be ready to address those questions or criticisms when they come up. I'm confident.
Oh, yeah. This is,
So would you apply the same logic to lease plus, get rid of them?
So lease plus is intended for landlords who are leasing to not-for-profits.
Like an urgent care?
Which is,
why are we doing that?
well,
Again,
if a
we'd have to get in the
not-for-profit owned
Wayback
it,
Machine.
conceivably, it would be off the tax rolls entirely. So I think probably at the time, there were, when U of R and,
So-
and the medical facilities were expanding, and that was going gangbusters, as moving into all those various office buildings. I don't know if we had
Clinton
pilots on them.
Crossing?
I don't know that we ever
No, I
had
don't
anything
think
on
so.
there. But I think there was a time where this made sense. We used it as frequently with the Colgate Divinity School moving into the Triangle building. We did
Oh, right,
use this
yeah.
schedule.
We did?
We did.
Okay.
But it's also fairly infrequent that we use this schedule.
We just talked, the guy from Pike.
Right.
Pike?
They're gonna build an urgent care in, Honeywood Falls.
Okay.
But like,
The
if you
for-profit
look at
will
the
hold it.
abatement schedule, it's also kinda odd.
It makes no sense.
No, yeah, we don't know where these
We
numbers
don't know.
came from.
I mean, so if you take a look at and just
It ends at 50, yeah, we don't know.
so juxtaposing the abatement schedule for the Jobs Plus and the enhanced. So again, I mean, if we're saying you're paying, what's the percentages show the abatement of the increment.
Yep.
Right?
The new value.
And so 0, 0, 0 relative to 10, 20, 30, so the benefit of the enhanced starts off with, you get 10% the first year, 20% the second year, 30%, 35, then it drops down to 20, then it drops down to 5, increases to 10, drops to 5, right, and then drops to 0. Like
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason, it's too complicated.
and then all of that, I mean, if I, relative to, like, if someone were to do a cost-benefit analysis, and I'm just, like, this is a guess.
Mhm.
But if a business were to do a cost-benefit analysis, right, the present value of the savings of the increment that I would save doing the enhanced relative to the Job Plus, relative to the added costs, right, long-term costs of having to hire 100 employees, they do the other one all day long.
Right.
The benefit is the first 3 years at 100%.
Right.
That's
But
the reason for it.
again, like you're adding on an additional 100 employees.
Right.
You talking about enhanced?
No, I'm talking about the difference between the two, right? And so again, it's you do a cost benefit analysis,
Right.
Right? Like, what is the cost of me doing the enhanced Job Plus relative to the Jobs Plus, right?
It'd probably be financially more advantageous
It's
for a
financially
company
more
to just do
advantageous,
job plus.
right? Because the benefit of the enhanced Job Plus is just you getting an additional 10, like if you add it up, look, I'm sorry, this is. It's just
30% over 3 years.
relative to having to
No, wait.
hire 100 people,
Don't
it
try to do
just,
math.
Sure, yeah, the juice
Yeah.
and the squeeze,
Yeah.
right, is the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, we got you.
okay.
Okay. So,
I have to excuse myself
What
for
time
a
is it?
2:30,
Is
I'm
it
sorry,
2:30 already?
Robin, you're on the call too, but I think it's more important as this conversation continues.
Okay.
I don't wanna cut this short, cause it's important dialogue, but,
All right.
I'm gonna take that other call, and is that okay?
Yeah.
The-
We got it.
Okay.
I think we're probably at a point where.
yeah, we can adjourn.
Okay.
We're gonna schedule another governance meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
let's,
Well,
if we can get that
I think this
scheduled.
was a really healthy
used to
Oh, that. very helpful.
conversation.
as you would say,
Yeah.
Norm, we're gonna
Yeah.
move through this methodically.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll wait on that. Okay.
Oh, okay, so we talked to Norman about joint school board
Yeah.
and.
We just
there were-
adjourned.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
can we have a motion, a lot of work, we're gonna be waiting for you to give us some red marked up stuff, okay?
Yes, a lot of markup.
Okay, so a lot of markup and, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.